and welcome to our sneak peek into the ABPCO Festival of Learning. Before we get started, just wanted to let you all know that we are recording the session, so it'll be shared as well afterwards. And yeah, so I'm Jo Powel. So for those who I don't know and I haven't met, I'm with the College of Optometrists. I'm a long-term member of ABPCO and also one of the co-chairs for the Learning Task Force, who look after the Festival of Learning program and kind of pulling it together. So I'm really excited to kind of host this session. I've been wanting to do like a sneak peek kind of format, so it's great to trial this for the festival. And really, this is about giving you a little bit of a taster of what's going to be featured at the festival and give you a little bit of flavor. So if you haven't decided what sessions you're going to attend, this might help that. And if you haven't actually booked on, hopefully you do that once you kind of leave the call. So we're going to just kind of have a conversation. So we've got four of the presenters joining us today, and we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about just kind of hearing about what their session is and what you might gain from it, and what are some of the things that you might be hearing about. And if you're not familiar with the Festival of Learning, just wanted to share a little bit about how the task force kind of goes into planning that. So it's really about considering what are the things that are going to be really useful to your kind of professional development. What are some of the areas that are going to help you improve and make really smarter, better, and more inclusive events? And also, what are some of the things industry-wide that are happening that we need to kind of be ahead of and we to know about that are going to help us in our roles? So you're going to hear from a few of our presenters today who are kind of touching on a lot of those different areas. So let's get going. I'm just going to invite the panel to introduce themselves, where they're from, and what session they are involved with. So I'm going to start with Richard, because Richard, you're big on my screen. So you want to introduce yourself?
I feel privileged. Thank you very much, Jo. Thanks for inviting me to this, but also, of course, to the event that's coming up quite quickly. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Richard Morris. I'm director at Active Media Events, and I'm running a session entitled Refocus, Rebalance, and Reimagine: a strategic look at your event portfolio. What I wanted to do was potentially bring a session to life and use can take away and use in their day-to-day event planning life. So the session itself will look at the event portfolios that you're all running, the event portfolios that you're perhaps working too hard on, to step back and take a critical look at what you're doing, what's taking up lots of time, what's taking up lots of resources, what's successful, and perhaps what isn't quite successful. So we'll look at the session I'm going to present. It will be in two parts. It'll be one looking at the theoretical side, let's say, about what are the bottlenecks, what are things that are hampering growth. But then the second part of the session itself will be a little bit more workshopy. So what I intend to do is to use a fictional association called the Widget Association. I did check beforehand. I don't think it exists, I hope, and run through the scenario of 3 or 4 of their events and what the attendees to the session would like to do with them to improve the overall event portfolio.
Great, thanks, Richard. I'm going to go to Paul now to do a brief intro.
Okay, so yeah, my name is Paul Cook. My company is Planit, but I've been invited by Crowdcoms to come and facilitate, moderate, whatever term you'd like to use, their session on Work Smarter, Not Harder, tools and frameworks that give event teams their time back. So this is going to be it's going to kick off with Johnny Martinez doing a presentation about frameworks and tools that people can use. But then we're going to get really into the detail of that a lot more in terms of what's actually going on with organizations and the way that people are using AI, but also using other people-powered initiatives as well. So we will be joined by Emma Duffy and also Molly Lisserman, and they've got their own insights to bring. But we're not just going to sit there and have this really dull kind of, this is a panel, you get the talking heads, you get 2 minutes of questions at the end, and everybody goes off a bit like, ugh, that was a bit deflating. So my aim is to bring everybody in the audience in. So we're going to have some interaction just in show of hands, things like that. So we won't be using time to do any tech stuff, but we will be seeing what the sense is in the room itself, and also bring in those insights into all of us so that we can really maximize that 30-minute session that we've got when it comes to that overall discussion piece. Because I don't know about you, but I go to a lot of panels and I listen to a lot, and I've got questions and they never quite get out because a lot of the time is taken by the great people on stage talking about their great stuff. And of course we will do that, but it's going to be more focused on what people in the room are actually looking for. So at 2 o'clock, you need to be with us. You'll see the 3 people. Sorry, Richard, but we are in a little bit of competitive arena here because I know that you're on the same time scale. But honestly, come and just let's have an honest discussion about what's working. And what's been really interesting to me is that in talking to Johnny, Molly, and Emma, the amount of honesty that they've just opened up to in terms of saying, well, this works, this is hopeless, this doesn't work, and that's what we're going to bring. So, you know, there's so much that you can do with theory, but we've got right into the kind of into the guts of this subject. And the big question I've got for the audience that come, we you know, this is to give time back to people. So spoiler alert, I want people to think about, okay, what am I going to do with that time that comes back? If it does in fact come back, what are you going to do with it? Because we know that event people like to be in control of things right through to the very last minute. So if we give them some time, are they just going to do more of that prep, or are they actually going to go and maybe have a spa somewhere? I don't know. But, you know, we just want to liven things up a bit and just really work a session that leaves people going away thinking, yeah, okay, there was something there for me that was good. And there will be those nuggets that go off because we've got great people talking, but we've also got a great audience as well. So
Great. Thank you, Paul. And I'm loving the plugs for your own sessions. That's really great. Andy.
Thank you. I hadn't realized how gladiatorial this was going to be, that we're all competing for attention. But hi, everybody. My name is Andy. I'm from Welcome Brain Consulting. We are a neurodiversity consultancy, and I'm part of the ABPCO Neurodiversity and Events Task Force. A year ago, we published the Neurodiversity and Events Checklist that's been doing the rounds literally all around the world now. So our latest project and our latest fixation is about networking. And so our session is all about networking. It starts with a really simple premise, is that networking as it stands is not good for anybody. We've just done a big research study into that, and we've got the data to back it up. But I think it was actually Anita that drove this. We're not calling it networking is not working, despite the fact I actually love how that sounded, because we have to have something productive, and it has to be very sort of optimistic and forward looking. So our session is called Let's Fix Networking Together. So we are running this in collaboration with Cubify. Tamsin and Raymond at Cubify are absolutely amazing. And so what it is an interactive session where we're going to be working on what are the problems with networking and how can we develop a new system of networking that benefits everybody, because it's very clear that what we have at the moment doesn't work. So it's going to be interactive, it's going to be collaborative, and it's all about finding solutions to a problem that we all have. And sometimes in the events industry, as an outsider, maybe I can say this, is we do things the way that they've been done just because that's the way they've always been done. So it's about shaking things up and maybe giving everybody a nudge to do things in a new way. So yeah, that's our session. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Sounds exciting. And Anita, you're actually doing 2 sessions at the festival. I wonder if you can, introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so greedy and I want to be so involved with ABPCO. I wanted to put myself in for 2 sessions. So yeah, so I'm working with Andy on neuro-inclusive networking, but also I'm moderating a plenary session on managing dietary requirements at events. And this was something that spun out of the neurodiversity task force and was picked up by Claire Beach from Azura event. So she really started this ball rolling. And I've picked up the baton and I've started banging the drum with it. We're going to be running a panel session and we're going to be looking at the challenges of managing dietary requirements at events. I think we can all agree when you start asking for dietaries, there are so many different requirements. People have so many different asks and trying to determine what's an allergy, what's an intolerance, what's lifestyle, what's cultural, what's ethical. So on the panel, we've got a PCO to talk about their perspective of managing diets, a venue. So they're going to be talking about how they approach it, and then somebody who actually has quite complex dietary requirements, what the end product, and we're going to kind of follow the event journey. So from planning to delivery to execution, what that actually looks like. And we've created a toolkit. So we're going to launch that at the Festival of Learning for all event professionals to use. It's a free guide. You don't have to pay for it. So we'll be going into a little bit more depth about how the toolkit is aimed to help everybody that's in events, whether they're a venue or whether they're a PCO or an attendee, and what that's going to look like. So hopefully going forwards, managing dietary requirements at events won't be so complex. And that's me.
Thanks, Anita. So as Paul kind of touched on earlier, we'll keep this session interactive as well. So if you do have questions and you want to pop them in the chat, feel free. But I'm going to jump straight in and just kind of keep the conversation going with our panel. And I wanted to ask kind of why your topics are so relevant right now. And Anita, I'm just going to just stick with you on that one.
I think we can all agree food and drink is a basic human right. And when you're hosting events, if you get the food and drink wrong, people will tell you, or it's the first thing that people will notice that about what they don't like at an event. You can have the best program, you could have the best venue, but if the food and drink don't match their expectations, you're on a hiding to nothing, and that's going to be their biggest take home, and that's what they're going to remember. There is a big disconnect between people's interpretations, depending on where in the events industry they are, whether they're a PCO, whether they're a venue, or whether they're an attendee. We all seem to be speaking different languages. So part of the session is about getting everybody on the same page and speaking the same language, and we all know what we're talking about. So yeah, and I think as well with dietary requirements, there are food allergies. Get it wrong, and for some people it's fatal. So it's about managing everything from severe allergies, life-threatening allergies, right through to lifestyle choices and how to manage all of those expectations and deliver them safely and consistently.
Right. And Andy, the same thing. I mean, I think you already touched on this a little in your intro, but why now? Why is the topic so relevant now?
Well, neurodiversity as a topic has been growing now for several years. I think more and more people are at least familiar with it, if not sort of taking active steps to involve it and integrate it into their events. But we just finished a big research study over the last few months, a big survey that we put out. And I think this is the first time the results have kind of been publicly announced. But the headline figures are, drumroll, that 94% of neurodivergent people get anxious when they're networking. That was sort of what we expected, but also 74% of neurotypical people get anxious when they're networking as well. So this is clearly something that is a universal feature of networking. 70% of all people say that networking is too overwhelming as it stands. So it's really clear that there's a weight of evidence showing that something has to change. I mean, events are so much about human connection, and networking is such an important part of that. Everybody who organizes an event, the networking side of it is often part of the big value sell. When you're saying it is you're going to bring people together. And if we've got this big sort of data block, which is showing that what we're doing doesn't work, then it's clear there's a need for change. So that's the sort of the urgency of why this is important right now, is because I think events as an industry is becoming more and more inclusive, and sort of re-examining some of the fundamentals about what they're actually putting into practice. And I think that is why this is important right now, is because I think we're understanding that there's a need for change in lots of different areas around sustainability or accessibility. And yeah, so some of the holy cows are being slaughtered, and I think networking is a big one of that. So yeah, that's what we're hoping to do right now.
Great, thank you. Richard, you want to
Why is it
answer that
important now?
question?
It's not. It's always been important. Essentially, a lot of associations, their largest form of non-dues revenue is the event portfolio. And in times, let's say well, economic times as is now, we can't ask members for more money generally, and we have to look at ways in which we can use our resources more efficiently to create more revenue or to create better events. A lot of PCOs, a lot of event directors or those in charge of portfolios, very often they've inherited that portfolio. They weren't there when the association came into being. So sometimes they don't even know why they're running certain events. But because events are dynamic, they change. Members' needs changes, the market changes. And as I said a little bit earlier, because we're so focused on delivering the event, getting the delegates through there, getting the revenue, delivering the catering, delivering all of these things, we sometimes forget to stand back and go, is this event fit for purpose? And it's important to check in on these things, because before you know it, if your event is slightly off in one year, by the time you realize it's going a little bit further the second year, it can be way off in the third year. And you've got something that's lagging behind what members and what the industry wants. So it's always important to check in. We all go to the doctors. We're not allowed to drive cars on the road without an MOT. So there are various checks and balances in everyday life to ensure that these things happen. So why not within your association, within your potentially your largest financial driver within that?
Right. I actually knew you were going to say that this is important all the time. And I've actually seen a different version of your session, and definitely it was important. Paul, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to pick up on Andy's point as well about the networking. I don't even know what networking really means these days. So I think there's a massive thing right there, because in the olden days when I was growing up, it was like, right, get around, do this, do that. And it's changed so much over the years. So I think what you're doing is great. And Richard, you just stole my thunder, because I was going to say that my topic, work smarter, not harder, give your people time back, is evergreen. But why is it relevant right now and at the end of April when we have the Festival of Learning? Simply because we believe that the good old tech, the AI that is with us constantly, is creating a bit of anxiety around what we should be doing, how we should be doing it, what works, what doesn't, all of those kind of good things. So I think for us, it's really examining, we have these tools, but are they actually making things better or worse? Do we even want them? So that's where this comes in. So why is it important? It's always been important, but I think more so now, just because of the speed of change that's going on, and that feeling that a lot of event folk think, right, I need to be on to the next shiny button thing. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, and that's what we're going to have a look at.
Great, thanks, Paul. And I think discussions in the task force, we identified, the kind of time poorness of our kind of members and the real need for sessions like that to help them. So I'm going to jump in and ask some more specific questions. Paul, I'm going to come to you because I'm already here. So we've obviously have experienced, being really stretched further and having fewer resources as well to deliver more. So what's an area where you think agile thinking will make an immediate kind of difference?
Well, I think it can make all sorts of differences in different ways, but I think we use this term agile quite a lot. It's like, are we flexible? Are we agile? Are we doing this? Agile to me sometimes I have pictures of gymnasium bars. It's like, okay, that to me is agile. We're not all leaping around an office doing things, but to be able to move from topic to topic or to adapt and reinvent, yeah, those are really important. Now, I think you're only going to be able to be agile as an individual or as an organization if you do embrace it, if you do embrace being curious and open to different perspectives. So I think whilst you could say, yep, our company really does this and we really are agile, if you've got people that are still like, nope, I'm not going to do that because my tried and trusted way of doing things, like Richard was pointing out, is basically the way that it needs to be done, then it's not being agile. So I think the different where it can make a difference is in the way that you kind of take it on board and how much of that you might want to take on board, because it might be a little bit too scary for some people to go down. And being that event folk tend to like to be in control a lot, then moving on to new things can be a bit of a challenge. And I think that was one of the things that come out, that we talk about change a lot, and the misconception could be that it's simple, and it really isn't. So I think there's a whole piece around psychology of bringing people on board and basically being open to explore things that don't work as well as those that do. We have a tendency sometimes to just focus on all the stuff that's good, but actually what we want to get into in this session is the stuff that doesn't work or didn't work and why it didn't, because then maybe people can relate to that. And I think all of that is a very long-winded way of saying that, if you want agile thinking, then you have to be able to come at it from a position of, yeah, I am up to embrace this. And if you're not, okay, we understand you may not be ready for the next stage of whatever the development is. So.
Great. And Richard, I'm going to come back to you now. So many of us, you already mentioned this, but many of us do inherit event portfolios that, have just evolved and we just continue delivering them. So what's a common sign, or do you think there are any common signs that a portfolio might need a strategic rethink? When should we be
There's two
starting that?
potential answers to this. One, if you can't remember it when it was done last, you probably need to do it. And two, if it's never been done in your tenure, you probably need to do it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that involved. It's just keeping a check-in on, do you really need to travel down to Exeter to deliver an event for, I don't know, the 3 or 4 members who turn up and it takes so much time and effort? Do you really need that event? And that's one of the scenarios that we put for the Widget Association. What should they do with that type of event? But I think in terms of when the review is needed, it's an ongoing process, but every now and then you should step back with the other stakeholders, because it's not, though it's yourselves that are delivering the events, you're delivering them for your stakeholders. So you may have a board of directors, you may have heads of memberships, you'll have membership task force. Are those events still delivering for those people, or are you spending a lot of effort and resource on an element that is no longer needed? I think it's coming at it from the more sort of commercial side of it. Very often you can just tell with a gut feel, is it getting more difficult to attract and retain sponsors and exhibitors? I.e., is the event not working for them? Or the other side of it is it more difficult to attract and retain delegates? And if the answers to those two questions are yes, then you probably need to put that event back under the microscope and just examine why it's being done. So Ideally, it's an ongoing process. Every now and then, you should really step back and do what we'll hopefully do through the session and just give you the tools so you can go back into your offices on the following week and say, right, guys, we need to take a look at our portfolio. Where are we spending effort, money, resources that are just not aligned with our association's objectives?
Thank you. And I'm going to come to you, Anita, now. So you're also going to be looking at new tools that you can be shared, that you're sharing. What kind of gap are those tools addressing? Are there any gaps that you see that the tools are really going to be supporting?
Yeah, sure. So I think I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, but the biggest gap that seems to be cropping up is communication. And I think it's not anything new, and it's nothing unusual, but it's the purpose of the toolkit, as I said, is to get everybody on the same page and speaking the same language. So within the toolkit, we have a glossary as well. So referring to what certain acronyms mean, what certain terms mean. Excuse me. The phrase gluten-free is legally protected, and it has to mean a specific thing. So as a venue or as a caterer, if you're claiming something to be gluten-free, there is a legal requirement that you're supposed to abide by. Excuse me. Sorry. The biggest fall down, I think, that we've perhaps seen in the task force is around labelling. So another form of communication. Delegates don't actually know what's in the foods, or the labelling isn't clear, or it's not by the dish, or they need to find somebody to ask what are the ingredients in this dish, and then trying to find somebody who knows what it is without having to run into the kitchen and go and ask the chef who's probably already preparing the next dish. So the toolkit looks at trying to narrow the parameters of miscommunication, and as I said, and trying to get everybody speaking the same language, and so that when we say something's gluten-free, we all know within the event industry and as event professionals what that means. So that's what the toolkit's aiming to do. I think it's going to, amongst other things, it's one of the biggest things it's going to do.
Right, that sounds really, really useful. So Andy, just coming back to you. So obviously we've already kind of touched on how important the networking is. Just wonder if you could give us a little teaser and maybe share an example of a kind of small change that might make a really big impact in networking.
Yeah, we've been using this cheesy phrase about things that don't cost the earth but mean the world, and that's definitely true of neuroinclusion in general. But what neuroinclusion comes down to, and it's a little bit like what Anita was talking about, really, is the word personalization. It's about giving people options. I think a lot of time in events, we heard people around, okay, now you go to this session, now you go to this session, you all go into this room and network, you all go and have your dinner together. So it really comes down to personalization and what that means in terms of networking, without spoiling too much of what we're going to say. And also with the caveat, this is an ongoing process. Our session is collaborative. We still want to find out more about what's going on. Is about personalizing the networking space. So that can be really simple things like give different seating styles, have sort of low chairs, have some standing areas, have some leaning tables, things like that. Breaking up the room into smaller parts as well, so people can go and stand in a larger room if they want, or a smaller sort of bit quieter part. And also giving people different activities. So you can have some conversation cards, but you can also leave people free to chat as well. So it's about allowing people to personalize their experience within a room, rather than just sort of drop kicking them into this sort of room full of hubbub and lukewarm white wine and just say, well, have at it. It's about giving people options to personalize their experience. And that's really what it comes down to. That's the mindset shift. And none of this has to cost a lot of money either. That's a really big, important part of what we're trying to do, is create an alternative to networking that is accessible in itself and inclusive in itself. So personalization.
Fantastic. And just want to go back to those kind of watching. Does anybody have any questions they want to ask to any one of the panelists? I can see a comment here about...
Can I jump in?
Definitely.
Oh, sorry, there's one on the
Paul.
chat. Beg your pardon.
No, you go ahead, Paul.
Hi. Well, thanks everyone for all that input. I've got two quick questions, but Catherine's got my second one, so I'll go with my first, which is following what Jessica said, which is that these are running simultaneously. So I just wondered if there was a mechanism for the learnings or the main points or a transcript or something like that that could be shared with those that go to an alternative session, trying to be in two places at once. I don't know if there was anything being recorded or note-taking or anything like that. It'd be a shame to miss out on these gems that you have.
I can help here. We are hoping to film some of the content in some of the rooms. We've just got to work out which ones we can and can't do and what the provision will allow. So we'll be sharing certainly some of the content afterwards as well. And where we can't film it, I think there's the opportunity to do something for the reasons you've discussed, Paul. So that's all.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great, and I'm sorry, Catherine. I didn't know if that was a question or it was just a debate you were having. Did you want to ask anything in particular, Catherine?
A bit of both, but Anita's popped a wee answer in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, so just picking in case anybody's not seen it, it's plant-based diet does not mean it's vegan, and that was a bit of a surprise to me because I thought it did. But if somebody says, or if a venue or a caterer claims something to be plant-based, doesn't necessarily mean it's vegan because it can still contain animal products like eggs, like dairy. So again, it's worthwhile asking as an event professional or as an attendee, if something is described as plant-based, do they mean vegan or do they actually mean it's predominantly plant-based, it's predominantly made of vegetables, legumes, pulses, what animal products in there. And something that we've done with the checklist as well is there are hidden animal products in foods that you wouldn't expect to see. So wine can include fish bones. There are certain stocks which all stocks tend to contain celery in, but if you have somebody who's allergic to celery, what's the way around it? So it's with the toolkit, that's what we've tried to cover, is try to cover as much information as we can. And as I said, so working with Andy as well, is that this isn't a standalone toolkit. We're not going to just launch it and then on your way you go, and in 5 years' time it will still be the same. We're wanting it to evolve. So obviously as tech evolves and more AI comes in, how can we leverage that to be more efficient and to be able to deliver catering at events or dietary requirements at events safely, so everybody feels included and nobody feels anxious about what they're eating.
Great. And Anita, sticking with you, what question would you like people to kind of arrive with, like ready to explore in your session?
How's this going to help? How's this toolkit going to help me? So with the session, we have looked at it as from all our different angles. What do we want the toolkit to answer? How do we need it to work for us? So it would be great to hear people's experiences of dietary requirements at events, whether it's as an attendee or somebody who's managing or organising events, because ultimately that will help us evolve the toolkit to make sure that it stays current and it stays with the times and it keeps everybody safe, because that's what we all want.
Great, and I'm going to come to the other panelists with the same question. Andy, what kind of question would you like delegates to come kind of ready to explore in your session?
Well, I mean, the key question is how can we fix networking? So hopefully they have that, but hopefully it's sort of like the broader question behind that is how can I reshape my events to make them work better for everybody? What are some of the assumptions that I need to challenge? I mean, ultimately, hospitality is about being hospitable and about making people feel welcome. So if things aren't working, we need to re-examine that, because so much of events is about interpersonal connections, whether it's a speaker on stage, but that's also true of networking. So can we redesign the way that people connect, so that work better for everyone? And I think it's really important to say also is that when we're talking about redesigning networking, that doesn't just make it better for neurodivergent people, that makes it better for neurotypical people as well, as the statistics have shown. So yeah, hopefully the questions are good. I think it suggests people will come with an open mind and the idea that maybe we can challenge a few things. So yeah, hopefully shaking things up a little bit, really.
Great. Some thumbs up going on there. Richard, same question to you.
I was just going to jump in on Andy's point there. Because what I do, obviously, interaction between sponsors and delegates is very important. And one of the reasons I've sort of explored is why delegates and sponsors or delegates find it difficult to network. And we're all told as children, don't talk to strangers. Don't take sweets off strangers. We get to a conference, there's people with sweets and they're strangers. Anyway, I'll move on off that one. In terms of what I want people to come there for, I want people to take advantage of the fact that they're not chasing forms, getting delegates in and not doing their day jobs, and they can take a step back and go, what are we trying to achieve with our event portfolio? And the whole power of ABPCO, the power of the collaboration, they can work through these 4 event scenarios. I mean, there's the annual conference scenario that I've put in there. There's a conference in there that's perhaps past its best, but it's still being run. Other ones, such as something that's absolutely on trend. How would the people who come along to the session, how would they deal with those? And almost this as a proxy to potentially discuss their own events, but without saying so. So they can get help and advice from around those tables by seeing what's there. So open mind and just the chance to learn in something that basically can't be recreated. Unfortunately, it can't be filmed because it's the power of the debate, it's the power of the interaction that where a lot of the value is.
Great, thank you. And Paul, what kind of mindset or questions would you like delegates to come into the session thinking about?
Yeah, the mindset, I think, is curiosity. So I'd like people to come along knowing that they've got three people on that panel that come from different backgrounds. You've got Johnny from tech, you've got Emma in medical, and then you've got Molly in event agency, spread across all sorts of different areas. So I think there's all sorts of questions that they could have about working smarter and all of that kind of good stuff. But I think it's to be like, okay, well, let's just be a little open. Let's just walk into this session and let's just listen and share and be willing to share some of their thoughts as well, because I think that's important. Not to do a presentation, but just to say, yeah, that really worked or that didn't. And if they are in that open mindset, then I think I know we will have a really good session, because that's the way that the presenters are coming on board, that they are sharing some of the things that have worked and not worked. And I think if we have an honest, open discussion throughout, then that'll be a really good space, rather than this is my question. I mean, there's no reason why they can't send in questions post the event, because each of the panelists have said, yeah, they would be open to that. So if during the day or during the session people think, yeah, I wish I'd asked that, they can still do it. So we don't want it to be a kind of, all right, you didn't get your question, that's it, it's gone away. These people are still there. So yeah, come with a curious mindset is all I'd ask.
Right, and just equally, if you can't attend, I mean, you obviously can't attend every session if they're happening the same time, but you can certainly speak to the presenters during the event as well. So Jessica, see your hand up?
I have a question for Paul. You sort of suggested earlier that as as many organisers, quite like to be in control of things, and I can relate to that. And I guess you kind of said earlier about that can apply to new technology too, and that really resonated with me because if you like to know how things work, then that can be tricky. So how do you think event organisers who like to know everything can kind of get over their fear of not knowing everything?
Well, that'll be something that we will be exploring because we do have a whole piece around what's going on in psychology of people in teams and where some people are more open and some are not. But equally, yeah, okay. For example, a little sneak peek when it comes to rooming lists. If you put some of the rooming lists into some of these AI tools, then A, that could be a disaster because you're giving sensitive information away. But even if you put a layer around that and you protect it, are you still going to trust what comes out? And maybe you might decide, actually, we're not going to put it into any of these AI applications. I do want to be doing this and I want to do this by hand. So, we will be bouncing around between the people side, the tech side, and what's really going to help people to make the most of their work. And I think also we're trying to get away from this idea that we need to be working long hours way before an event gets going. In a perfect world, we would decelerate into an event, and then you could be really present in that event rather than having to think about a million things that maybe cropped up at the last minute. So that's the kind of area that we want to go down. So I don't know if that quite answered your question, but I still want to tease it a little bit. I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, come along.
And that decelerate into an event sounds this. So, I mean, you guys have answered most of my questions. Does anybody have any other really burning questions they want to ask? Not seeing any hands here.
Can I just jump in again, if you don't mind? For Anita, just because you're talking about the food element, and I was just actually wanting to do a shout out and applaud to ABPCO for the awards, making it fully plant-based. I think it was even fully vegan, I'm not quite sure. But I think the reception we had and the dinner we had at the awards in December was that. And I feel that when there are events, I'm not vegetarian, but I applaud the move to being plant-based. And I think events for event planners and for the event communities have that option of being braver and saying, yeah, we're going to make this a vegetarian only or a fully plant-based diet for everybody. I didn't know if there was any plans like that for Festival of Learning, but I know that was the case for the awards.
Matt's probably better to answer that than
Yeah, I can
me.
help
I know
there.
we've had a couple of conversations around it, but Matt.
Yeah, I can't claim any involvement in the decision for the December event because I so knew that had already been made. If it's fair to say, we had lots of very strong views on that menu, on both ends of the scale, if you like. So really, really interesting feedback. So we're being mindful of that this year. We're not repeating that at the Festival of Learning, but there will be something for everybody. But it was some really interesting feedback because we got lots of people like you, Paul, who are very, very, very supportive of it. But there were probably an equal number who were less convinced.
Yeah, that's an interesting
Politician answer there.
interesting topic, I think, as well. Yeah. But that does deal, like from Anita's point of view, that does deal with a lot of the allergy issues straight off, right? So not all of them for sure, but it deals with a lot of them, right?
Yeah, it does. And the discussions that we've had within the task force is that there are the people who like to eat meat. It's as simple as that. And for some cultures, eating meat is a celebration, and it is expected. So I think again it comes back down to communication and thinking about diets. And this is something we've kind of talked about in the task force, is that when it comes to managing diets, it's kind of like once you've already booked your venue, it's almost like, and once registrations going up, then you start thinking about it. And what we're suggesting is actually, as you're planning your event, have managing diets and have neurodiversity in your mind right from the start. Don't leave it as you progress down managing and organizing your event, or even leaving it until the last minute. Build it right from the start, right from the beginning, because as soon as you start doing that and start being more inclusive, it's going to make that process, when you're further down the line and you've got people coming to you saying, I'm a bit anxious about coming, I need somewhere a bit quiet, or I've had surgery and I can only manage certain foods. If you've already started building that right from the beginning, it saves that stress and that last minute panic further down the line. So it's a little bit speculate to accumulate.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. And like you said, it's a key component of the event, right? But it probably doesn't get the same time and attention that other elements of the planning get, but it actually is crucial for people. So
yeah, and I think we can all sort of talk of a good eating out experience we've had, and we can all talk about one where it really wasn't very nice, and that's what we're trying to help minimize, is those experiences that don't go so well.
Yeah, and certainly you touched on this earlier, Anita, that our delegates are going to comment on that if they don't have a good experience with their food. So we don't want to give much more away, but I am going to do one final question to the panel. Just if you could tease one more thing to help get everyone excited or draw them to your session versus one of the others, what would it be? Should we start with you, Paul?
Well, I've got 3 rock stars and myself on stage, so I mean,
well, you're the storyteller, aren't you? So.
Well, I try to weave things in, but yeah, I think if you want to open an honest conversation, if you want to have your voice heard, and you want to just pick up on what some people are doing that's working or not working, and you internalize that for yourself and where your organization is, then I think we'll be challenging some perspectives, put it that way. So yeah, that wasn't one thing, that was a whole heap of things. But yeah, just remember three rock stars, and each of them are giving their experience and insights, freely, and they're doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make this work. I know that Johnny has got he's got some framework called the Eisenhower Matrix. No idea, haven't seen it yet, but I will obviously by the time before we get there. And so yeah, there's some interesting developments going on, and I think really all of the people are just bringing the best of themselves to share with ABPCO, knowing the audience responds to this, and knowing that that is a session that they need to be in. Need I say more?
Great. And Richard, why do they need to be in your session?
What can I say? Okay, so 3 things, I think, if I can remember all 3 of them. Firstly is we're looking strategically of how important the events piece is within the association that you're working with for. That's the sort of key thing. 2, I also have a matrix, not feeling to be left out. I have a portfolio matrix of how this can all come together, which takes lots of information and simplifies it so you can see the wood for the trees of perhaps something that's hugely complicated, and we know how overworked PCOs and events people are, but just to simplify that. And then finally, there is a sort of tool that people will be able to download or access, which they can apply to one event and just truly evaluate that one event and see where the bottlenecks are, see where the opportunities to grow are, and they can get that by coming to the session.
Yes, Andy, over to you.
Well, all we have to offer is immortality, really. So this is your chance to shape the future. So we're redesigning networking. We want to hear from you. So this is your chance to be a part of the new form of networking that we're developing and we put together. So yeah, this is your chance to play a role in saying what you like and don't like about networking, what works for you. And this is historians are going to write about this, so this is your chance to be there on day one of the new type of networking. So hopefully see you there.
Great. And Anita, you don't need to do a pitch because your session is for the whole audience, but any last teasers you want to share?
So yes, I was just sort of thinking about, we're going to launch the toolkit, and as well as checklists in there, we've built a glossary, and something I've completely forgotten, I shouldn't have done, is that we've created a mini catalogue of icons as well for event professionals to use. So because some attendees are not English speaking or they have issues with reading, so using imagery is a great way to be able to showcase or to highlight what ingredients a certain dish includes. So we're really kind of coming at it to be as inclusive as we can, and and working with Andy and with Jess around neurodiversity. It's just a natural progression from neurodiversity into the diets. And I've literally just Googled, I've just had an idea, I might wear a tomato outfit. I might come dressed as a tomato. So I've just Googled tomatoes.
Great. Well, thank you all. I mean, I'm super intrigued, and rock stars, tomatoes, immortality. It all sounds fantastic.
Bring a lemon.
So thank you all. Matt, I might hand back to you if you wanted to have any final thoughts about the festival to share.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for joining us today, particularly Jo for leading this and our panelists. And this, of course, is just part of the programme. We've got our headline speaker, Jeff Ram, we've got Sasha Fries, we've got various optional workshops and all sorts of other sessions. So I hope you'll choose to join us in Nottingham. And we'll see you all, I hope, in about a month's time. And if you haven't registered, please do. And thank you again, everybody, for joining us.